Hello, I'm Joshua of Milestone Play. I'm a professional game master, and welcome to Monster Week. Monster Week is an annual online collaborative event put on by Ginny D and Pointy Hat, and the theme this year is dragons. For our part, we'll be providing an option to make your dragon fights a whole lot more magical without swamping your players too much. You still want it to be a challenge, but they're the heroes. They should have a fighting chance. After you watch this video, make sure you check out the playlist with all the other Monster Week videos for both Dragons this year and Kraken Week last year. For now, though, let's get into it. Welcome back. So, let's talk about trading legendary actions for a spellcasting turn for your dragons in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. The basics of turn economy in D&D is based around every creature getting one turn. If you have 4 heroes in the party, they each get a turn. If you have 8 heroes in the party, they each get a turn. And your monsters each get a turn. However, if you're trying to have a single large epic dragon fight against a party of 8 adventurers, well, that dragon is only going to get to go once every 9 turns. Even only having 6 adventures, 5 adventures, there's still a lot more going on with the players between the dragon's turns. If you're trying to have a boss fight with a single dragon against all of your adventurers, it's not going to go well for the dragon. The way the designers of 5e solved this problem was legendary actions. While the dragon does get its own turn, it can also do small little things between the turns of other creatures, whether it's a claw attack, a tail whip, flipping the wings a little bit and fluttering about. There's little things the dragon can do as legendary actions between different players' turns. One of the problems that I've found at my table with legendary actions is they can wear down on the players a little bit. Now, players, that was a deliberate word. Not characters, players. Legendary actions were designed to solve a problem with the number of characters fighting a monster. They weren't really designed around the players. Now, there have been multiple times in a big combat where we've gotten to the end of a character's turn, things are looking really bad, the players are scrambling to try and solve multiple problems in a given moment, and then I have to say the words, at the end of your turn, the dragon's going to make a legendary action, or the Mummy Lord, or the Kraken, or whatever that happens to be. Now, when that happens, the players will give an audible, another legendary action. Now, a large set-piece combat is meant to be a trial for the characters and for something for the players to overcome and be able to beat. However, if the players are being worn down and their morale is dropping, that makes the game less fun for everyone. Along with that, sometimes I have a small player group. Sometimes if there's only 3 or even 2 players and I have a monster with legendary actions, it becomes the monster's turn, and then a player, legendary action, player, legendary action, and there might be a legendary action after every single player's turn. Now, I could adjust how many legendary actions a monster has, and that's kind of what this problem solves. It's just in a different format. Now, you can mix legendary actions and a spellcasting turn, but for the most part, I give monsters a spellcasting turn instead of legendary actions if I feel it's appropriate. So, let's talk about this spellcasting turn. In addition to the 1 regular turn that the dragon gets to use its action, bonus action, movement, interaction, all those basic things, we're going to give the dragon a 2nd turn in place of its legendary actions. On this spellcasting turn, the only thing this dragon can do is cast a spell that's either an action or a bonus action. Nothing else. It doesn't get to move, it doesn't count as the end of the dragon's turn for trying to overcome effects like stun, paralysis, things like that. We are only casting a single spell on this turn. However, what that does is it allows for the dragon to move, to fight, to claw, to bite, to breathe its draconic breath weapon on its main turn, and then other magical effects can happen on that 2nd turn. We're going to talk more about some of the options for what those spells might be. However, it might be something like just giving a red dragon Agonazor Scorcher or a Fireball to give it different shapes of its breath weapon that can happen a little bit more often. Or it might be something like giving it a Fire Shield spell to have the dragon wreathed in flame. Even getting close to it hurts the characters for trying to attack it. It allows for things to change up on that spellcasting turn without affecting what it's supposed to be doing. But when do we use this spellcasting turn? I have used 2 separate methods to determine when the spellcasting turn happens, and depending on how you run your games and what you like to favor, it might change which of these options you want to use. The simpler version is to just roll the initiative for your dragon as normal, and then have the spellcasting turn happen on -10 from whenever that first roll is. That's going to provide some space in the initiative round from the dragon's regular turn and the spellcasting turn, but it still preserves some of the randomness of whether your player characters have a lot of high bonuses and maybe get to go before the dragon and its spellcasting turn, or if they're going to be dappled in the middle. If the dragon rolls really high and the players roll very low, you could end up with every player character after the spellcasting turn, and those two dragon turns go back to back. Now, with that, if you favor randomness and that sort of fated die roll of your game, use that -10 option. The other method is to roll the dragon's initiative as normal for its regular turn, and then count half the party members down the initiative and place the spellcasting turn after that. If you have 4 player characters, dragon, whatever the next 2 player characters are, spellcasting turn, and then the other 2. Deliberately splitting the party in half ensures that whatever the dragon does on its turn, the players get to react to something before the spells happen. And then after the spells, there will be a couple more characters that will get to react to what happened there before you get back to the dragon. It spaces things out and ensures that there is a nice flow of combat instead of this just dogpiling everything on the characters at once and possibly having a worse situation than that legendary action snafu that this system is meant to avoid. You might want to roll as normal, see if it's appropriate to use the -10, and then if that's looking a bit funky, maybe divert to this half the party situation afterwards. You're the game master. Your job is to make the game as fun for your players as possible, so having a little bit of wiggle room on where exactly that spellcasting turn occurs, make sure it's the best for your party, and everything will be fine. Okay, we have our spellcasting turn. But what exact spells are we going to use on that turn? Now, earlier I gave a couple examples of using fire elemental spells with a red dragon to just continue into that theme, but there's multiple ways you can do this. There are optional rules in the monster manual for dragons to have spells already, and you can take those spells and carry that influence forward. In addition to that, the 2025 monster manual has given a few more spells to dragons across the board, as well as a few more interesting legendary actions that, oh no, we can't use. Or can we? If you see any legendary actions for the dragon that you think are a lot of fun, you can convert those into a spell that can be used with spell slots that you're already giving your dragon. By taking those species-specific legendary actions and converting them into a form that you can spend spell slots on, it keeps the unique nature of each of those dragons present, and it makes each dragon fight still feel unique instead of just, okay, well, it's a dragon-shaped wizard now. But on that dragon-shaped wizard, there are plenty of other fun spells to use that will change how your players fight the dragon. First of all, if you give them a bunch of spell slots, you have shield. Now, that probably doesn't feel as draconic until you think about it as the dragon's scales locking up, the body crunching down. There's no gap between them. They're perfectly overlaid. It's very difficult to get a shot in. Now, it's important to remember our dragon still only has one reaction, and our party can work together to get the dragon to expose itself to allow for attacks to get in. There's multiple things your players could do to prevent that reaction being used for shield. Maybe you have a player character going after the dragon's eggs or a hoard of treasure. As the character runs off after what the dragon values most, the dragon isn't going to think about protecting itself. It's going to worry about protecting those eggs, that treasure. It's going to overextend itself, get an attack of opportunity, and trying to crush that puny little mewling hero for opposing it. And in that moment of overexerting itself, stretching out, separating the scales, a character can get an attack in. Maybe after a lucky blow of an assassin's sting or a paladin smiting in, the dragon is furious with rage, gives off a reaction burst of elemental energy, and in doing so, despite giving into that anger and wrath to hurt those that oppose it, it's just making itself more exposed for others to come in. The dense narrative of all of the options that can play out simply from the shield spell given to a dragon can extend to any other spell that you want to give to dragons. Some of those will be more generic spells that you might give any dragon, others might be species specific. A couple other generic options besides the shield spell would be things like Thunder Wave, as the dragon flaps its wings, causing people to scatter, being blown away. Or possibly Earth Tremor, crumbling the ground, making difficult terrain, knocking people prone. Anything that is the physical presence of the dragon can be given to any of them. You could even give something like the Fear spell in place of the frightening presence of the dragon, As the dragon just bellows a roar down towards a number of characters, that cone of fear affecting those that it is specifically roaring at. As stated earlier, more specific options to each dragon species can be found in the optional rules for the Monster Manual, the 2025 Monster Manual, having more options for dragons, but you can also come up with some yourself. The noxious and nefarious green dragons of the forest have some sway over plant life and animals. Perhaps you give your green dragon Dance Macabre, raising up the fallen dead of previous soldiers and heroes that have fought against it, rising them as zombies, twisting with vines and fungus. Perhaps your valiant bronze dragon has Crusader's Mantle, not to use against the party, but for them as you join forces against a greater evil. Or maybe you have a pair of dragons of the same species, whether mated or siblings. They might have the same claws, the same teeth, the same scales, the same breath, but they could have different spell lists showing differences in their personality. One white dragon might prefer to freeze their prey solid with a cone of cold, while a more sadistic sibling might prefer Rhymes binding ice to lock it in place, to stalk in to personally kill it with its teeth or claws. I have made some sample lists for the different types of spells you might want to give to your dragons. All of this information is typed up for free on my Patreon link below. The spells are set in different categories. We do have the generic spells that any dragon would be able to use based off of its might, size, strength, ferocity, terror, all of that. And then we have some lists that vary how your dragon interacts with the world, what elemental type it is, things like that. And by picking and choosing from these different categories, you can create your own novel dragon experience. Some of these are elemental based, others are personality based, whether the dragon is malevolent or beneficial to the party, whether the dragon is valiant and noble or mischievous or domineering. You can easily assemble a new spell list for a dragon in your monster manual simply by going, okay, well, it's a dragon, so it gets some of the generic spells, or all of them. Let's do a fire dragon, so there's the fire spells, but then from there, base monster manual, you have red dragons and you have gold dragons. Well, maybe you take the malevolent spells for the red dragon and the beneficial spells for the gold dragon. And as you just change from dragon type to dragon type, it slowly shifts what lists you're picking from to create the aesthetic of that dragon. But also feel free and take some wild cards. Take some things that make your dragon your own. But yeah, you have all that linked below, so go make your dragons. Make them magical, make them mighty, but also give your heroes a fighting chance. That's going to bring us to the end of this video, so thank you so much for watching. The video was made possible by my patrons on Patreon, but also Ginny D and Pointiette. Once again, this is a Monster Week video, 2025 Dragons. Go check out the playlist to all the other creators that have made videos for this week. And then also maybe come back, check out the links in the description. I am a professional game master, so jump in the Discord, see what we got going on, check out all my stuff on my website, blah, 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 blah. Get on with the dragons. Just go, have fun, fight dragons. It's D&D. It's half the name. Have a lovely.